What do you mean I just paid off $25,000 in student loan debt in 6 months? What? Is that even possible? For those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Jacqueline, owner and founder of Manifest a Greater You, where I share tips, strategies, and recommendations on how you can start to manifest more of your goals and dreams into reality, particularly with growing your business and really getting your mindset right when it comes to having a relationship with money. And so we're going to be talking about different tips there. And I do apologize. I know I've kind of almost vanished for the past couple of weeks. I've been focused on a couple of other things behind the scenes, which is why, unfortunately, I've been away for a couple of weeks here, but I am back and I'm really excited in today's video to share with you all a recent big win in my book that I have reached, which is paying off $25,000 in student loan debt. And my goal and hopes for you is that I can be a testimonial for anybody out there that has any kind of debt, whether it's with credit cards, whether it's with a loan that you took out, maybe it's with student loans in particular, or maybe you have a mortgage or some kind of payment that you're feeling really overwhelmed with. And today I really want to talk about the value of having the right money mindset and getting yourself out of that scarcity mindset so you can start to have a healthy relationship with money and really start to take control of your finances, because in the end, money is just an exchange of energy, right? So if you can get to a point where you have a good relationship with money, you can start to steer things in the right direction. And whether that means for you getting financial freedom, being able to do more of what you love, really focusing in on what you want to do. And those are all reasons why I was super motivated to share this video, is because not only am I getting myself out of student loan debt, but it will then enable me to gain the financial freedom to do more of what I love and start working full-time in that direction. Tip number 1 is all about getting serious and committing. So what I mean by that is really understanding where it is that you are, acknowledging that yes, you aren't in the best financial situation, and taking a look at, what money you're bringing in on a monthly basis, and then what are those must-have expenses that you need to be paying for every single month, whether that's your rent, your cable, utilities, water, etc., budgeting money for groceries, those types of things. Those are your needs, right? And then what are those other things that you've been spending money on? And you can look at your other previous statements or just looking at the transactions within your bank account and looking at what are those things that you don't necessarily need, and start to look and see where your money is being spent. And, a few years ago when I was looking at my credit score and just the financial mess that I was in, because unfortunately I just wasn't making enough, my job wasn't paying well enough. I knew eventually it would pay off because I had to make some sacrifices. But long story short, you really need to get clear on where you are and not be ashamed to look at what your current situation was. I was ashamed when I first looked and kind of laid out my finances, because I knew I was spending more than what I was making. But I still felt that I should be, doing certain things and like buying certain things. And I just really wasn't clear on my intentions. So it's going to be super important for you to start to get serious and commit. And what I did is I put everything into a Google spreadsheet, and I put my monthly expenses each and every single month, and each tab was a new month. And so I put all of the things that I needed to make sure that I was paying every single month. And then I also had a placeholder for the amount that I was making every single month. And then from that was the extra money that I had, as, whether you want to be saving or whether you want to be paying off debt, that is the extra amount that I needed to start allocating to start paying off debt. And so I got really intentional with how much I was budgeting for food, groceries, really limited, pretty much down to nothing at all, going out and having dinner with friends. And it's really helpful. And I know it's not always easy, but it's really helpful to have that conversation with close friends and family, or, maybe your partner or spouse, and say, hey, I'm setting this intention of just cutting back on my expenses, so that way you're not going to feel bad every single time you say no to going out and having drinks with friends. And I completely cut out spending alcohol, going out in general, just because I know I could rack up a really high check just from drinks alone. And so because I became more intentional, because I really was motivated to pay off debt, I wasn't shopping, getting things that I didn't need. It was really just the ultimate necessities and putting the rest away so that I could start paying off more of the debt that I owed. And you also want to keep in mind that when you're making payments every month, whether it's for student loans or whatever kind of loan it is that you owe, if you're just making the minimum balance and you look at the interest rate, a lot of what you're paying, when I really started to look at the numbers, over half of what I was paying each month was going towards the interest. It wasn't going towards the principal, and the principal is actually what's applied directly to the balance. And so for 6 months to a year, even though let's say I was paying several thousands of dollars within that year that I thought was going directly to my student loans, it was actually only half of that amount, and the rest was going to principal. And I got so frustrated, and it's no one's fault but my own. I can only take responsibility for myself, which is why it's so important to educate yourself on interest rates. And when you take out certain loans, even if it's for a car or things like that, how much is actually going to the lender. And I realized every month I was just throwing money for like a really nice handbag every single month. And it was so disappointing. It was so frustrating, which is why I want to share that with you. Is when you start to get really clear and intentional on how much you're spending and look it straight in the eye, looking at your statement or logging in online and taking a look at how much is actually being applied to the principal, the actual balance, and how much is actually going to interest, which is going to the lender, money that you're throwing away every single day. So the more money that you can pay that's greater than the minimum balance, you're going to be better off, because you're then taking a larger amount away from the principal balance, which is essentially what you want to be paying off. And depending on the type of loan that you have, interest could be accruing on a daily basis or a monthly basis. And so it's really important to start to understand those numbers and taking a look at, for me, for example, with my student loans, which student loans had the highest interest rate, and did I want to focus on paying off the smaller loans first or the larger loans first? And we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. So tip number 2 is now that we've kind of talked about interest rates a little bit, we're going to segue now into how can you lower your interest rate. And of course, this goes back to your credit score. So if you weren't happy with where your credit score is, that might be a good place to start. And I highly recommend Credit Karma. I don't have an affiliate link with them at all, but I've been working with creditkarma.com for several years now to help me boost my credit score. If you would have asked me 3 years ago, I cried. I was super frustrated because I had no education on money up until I realized how much financial debt I was in. And again, going and logging into Credit Karma, they'll give you recommendations on how you can boost your credit score. A few years ago, my credit score was in I think the very low 600s. Like, it was really bad, and I was really ashamed. It didn't feel good at all, because I knew if I needed to go and take out any type of loan, or if I wanted to try to lower the interest rates on my current student loans, it was going to be a little difficult for me to actually be approved for a student loan that has a lower interest rate, which is the whole point of refinancing any of my existing student loans. So that's where I needed to start. So I went to creditkarma.com a few years ago, and I got really clear on my intentions and followed their recommendations. Now my credit score, thankfully, is over 800. It's nearly very close to 850, and I'm super grateful for that. But besides the point, as long as your credit score is in a good place, Credit Karma will also make recommendations of other lenders that may allow you to transfer that balance. So it's called a balance transfer, and they'll give you a list of lenders and what the estimated interest rate will be if you were to transfer that balance on that student loan. So I had done that for one of mine, which really helped me then lower the balance overall significantly, just because the interest rate before that was, I believe, at like 12%, which is ridiculous, and I got it down to like 4%. So there was still a little bit of money going to the lender, but it was much less than what it would have been if I would have tried to stick it out with the original lender that I had used for that student loan. So thinking about balance transfers, again, you need to assess the pros and cons of, okay, if I transfer the balance, is that going to be advantageous to myself? Or do I realistically think that I could pay this off, in a short amount of time so that I can get rid of that loan and not have to, transfer that credit over to another lender? So that's tip number 2. And then tip number 3 is when you are in a good standing to start paying off a little more than what the balance is, I would highly suggest you assess, out of those student loans that you have, which one has the highest balance, and then also take into consideration which loans have the highest interest rate. For me, I did a mixture of both. One of my loans, I had paid off the one with the highest interest rate because every time I looked at, again, the breakdown of the principal versus the interest, I was disgusted. I was so disappointed because it's like, wow, like I clearly see how, you know, they say the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. If you're not educated on money and you have no idea like what you're doing, you're going to be lost and you're going to end up losing a lot of money. So because of my frustration and anger and seeing how much was being applied to the interest versus the principal balance, I paid off the highest paying loan that I had first. And then from there, I paid off the next student loan that I had that had a lower interest rate. But again, it just depends on kind of where you are and what makes the most sense with your financial situation. Paying off the next loan that had the smallest interest rate was rewarding to me because it's like, yes, I got to check another one off. So again, just assessing that, I think everyone's situation is different, right? So deciding on, you know, if you want to pay off the smallest debt first or do you want to pay off the greatest interest rate first, it's totally up to you. But start to kind of look at what are the pluses and cons of paying off which loans first and what makes the most sense with your circumstances. And another key win that really made this possible for me is, yes, I did graduate college. I don't have a family yet. So again, everyone's financial situation is different. But after I was assessing, you know, I got my credit score to a good place, and knowing how much was being applied, going back to the frustration of interest versus the principal, I decided to move home. I listened to Gary Vee, and one of his videos was super inspiring to me where he said, you know, if you can make small sacrifices for a shorter amount of time to gain financial freedom and do whatever the hell you want, if it takes you moving home and living in your parents' basement, then so be it. Do it. So that's what I did. 6 months ago, I moved back home with my parents. I had planned accordingly and made sure that I got a job. So, you know, I was bringing in a significant income, thankfully, and because I'm living at home, my expenses became super low, and I was living in Washington, D.C., and the rent there is through the roof. So can you imagine all that money then that I was paying for rent was now being applied to help me pay off my student loans even faster. And my parents, you know, have been super supportive, thankfully. So again, it just depends on your situation. Everyone's situation is different. I can't say that this will be helpful to everybody out there, but I would highly encourage you, if you can, move home with your parents for a short amount of time, or move in with someone where you can really cut back on your living expenses. And, you know, as I said, building out that Google spreadsheet, and I'll share a screenshot down below just to give you an idea of kind of what mine looked like for the breakdown of rent, water, cable, utilities, and like all the things I needed. I budgeted money as well for groceries and, you know, just things that I would need here and there. There's some people that say completely take out Starbucks, or completely stop going out to eat, or completely stop going out in general. Some of those things I did, but, you know, there were times where I did go and like get a coffee, and, you know, for my own sanity, I didn't want to have a mindset of being super frugal. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm already quite frugal. But I didn't want to have that mindset of scarcity, which brings me to my next point, and that it's so important to have the right money mindset. And for me, I've been determined to gain financial freedom so that I can do more of what I love and be able to give back in a way that feels super fulfilling to me, myself, and also to help my family, and just different projects that I have that I've been wanting to do for the longest time. And so one of those is being to gain financial freedom, which was a huge motivation for me. But going back to the money mindset, I meditate regularly, and I meditate on specifically guided, like if you're just starting out, guided meditations on the law of attraction with abundance, you know, mindset. Gratitude is a huge one. You've got to keep your energy levels high and keep that vibration high if you want to attract more of what it is that you want. And that's what the point of this channel is all about. Manifest a Greater You is how you can ultimately become the best version of you, whether that means going after your dream job, going and building your dream business, going and gaining financial freedom so that you can do whatever the hell you want. That's what this channel is all about. And so I was a little bit hesitant to throw money into the mix, but I was like, you know what? Like, again, money is just an exchange of energy, and that's what Manifest a Greater You is all about. So as you can see here, I will show you, I put together a vision board earlier this year, and one of the things I have on here is I put gain financial freedom. I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan as well, and that is becoming a reality. And because I've been envisioning this and practicing more gratitude and really trying to attract more of what it is that I want and coming from the mindset of abundance rather than scarcity, I've been able to pay off $25,000 in 6 months. I'm not saying that to brag. I know there's other people that have paid off way more than that, but for me, coming from literally nothing, that's a huge accomplishment. You know, if I were to look back a year ago, I barely had a few $1,000s in my savings account. And for me, that was a huge win at the time because I was paying an immense amount for rent and still trying to make it up the corporate ladder and, you know, just do all these different things. But when I thought back, when I thought about it in retrospect, I was like, wow, you know, like I'm so grateful for all the changes that I've made. And it comes back to figuring out what it is that you want and getting really clear on where it is that you are and not being prideful in the sense of, oh, like I need to go and say yes to going out and having drinks with my friends and, you know, adding an additional $100 every time I go out, or, you know, buying that new really nice bag or going shopping. Like I said no to all of that because I knew in the long run this was temporary, and already in 6 months, like that's freaking awesome. So I hope this video was useful. I just wanted to share my win with you all. And if you have any questions as it relates to paying off debt, or you'd love to hear more videos about how I've started to gain more financial freedom or other things that I've been doing, drop a comment down below. And I will really appreciate it. And it would really help my channel so that I can continue to make videos like this. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. It really helps me get boosted in the algorithm. And so I can continue again to make more videos like this. So thank you so much. I'm super excited to be back, and I hope you have a great week. We'll talk soon.